I've tried to summarize a little bit on one slide some of the issues. As I said, there are too many articles to go through. There are a lot of essential requirements that are being addressed. There are quite a few new ones. Too much time needed to really explain that all to you, how it will impact. But I think anything that is being decided or that is currently in the draft and eventually we're going to end up with has to do with that previous slide of some of the issues that came about and that needed to be fixed. So the management, there is something called the Medical Device Coordination Group, which will be, it's new. And I am going to spare you the details of some other committees and advisory groups that may be involved. But in general, what this group is going to be, they're going to be involved in a variety of areas. They're going to be looking at some of the notified bodies. They are looking at the way clinical data, clinical evidence is being used. And they're also going to be consulted when we look at high-risk devices, like the variety of different implants, where notified bodies will be required to notify this committee or this group, which is made out of experts coming from the member states. They are allocated, I believe, for 3 years total, and they will also be identified, so you will know who they are. So you can figure out where they live and pressure them if they give you a hard time, I guess. But it is going to be a very important element into the equation when we look at device approvals, because Europe, the old system, and hopefully it will still be in the future, it was very predictable and is very predictable. Now with these changes, we'll have to see how predictable it will stay. But we will see more like what we like to call a pre-market approval process, where there will be more entities involved in the decision-making, what type of clinical studies and or evidence is needed for novel or high-risk devices. So that means delay, potential delay to markets, cost, and everything else. So that is quite a change. There are many new definitions. The regulation will cover more products than there are today. Again, mixed emotions as a consulting firm, because I think they have created somewhat of a nice little frenzy for consultants with all these changes. But accessories. Accessories were kind of defined as products that will enable a medical device. They have changed it now to assist. So that's going to widen the group much more. So more products will be involved. We're looking at devices or products that are currently not considered medical devices but will become medical devices. We're looking at expansion of custom-made products. So that definition will change. So more products will not be considered custom-made as it is understood today. We're going to see non-medical devices even covered. And you'll find that in Annex 15 in the current draft, and you see some devices are identified, such as colored contact lenses. We have cosmetic implants, cosmetic lasers. They're already identified as non-medical. They don't really make medical claims, but now they will be regulated. And there is also what we call the concept of common specification, CSs, that also the medical device coordination group will be involved in to allow and give specifications to manufacture of these type of devices and the type of compliance that need to exist. Some of these products are not new, even though they're on the list. We've seen them already with CE marking based on medical devices, and that is just because the manufacturer threw 1 or 2 medical claims in it, and in addition to all the more aesthetic claims that they made and got away with it. And those obviously now will be formally under a regulation. There will be no questions anymore whether they're a device or not a device. They are not a device, but they are regulated by the device regulation. What else do we have there? So we'll talk a little bit about the central database UDOMED. We'll also talk a little bit about UDI, which if you are successfully selling in the United States as Class 3s, you're already exposed to that. And in September, we're going to see Class 2 devices in the United States that require the UDI. Europe and other markets in the world are looking at the same type of device identification. And hopefully they're all going to coordinate a little bit and try to harmonize it, so we're not as industry dealing with different types of systems, different type of information that's required. But there's definitely something on its way when we look at this aspect. The economic operators, so economic operators, really an introduction of the different players that you often see in device compliance and device marketing and selling, et cetera, So it is, of course, the manufacturer, we have the distributor, we have the importer, and we have the authorized representative, and we'll talk about the latter also. But they are clearly identified, and all with the same purpose, that there are certain responsibilities and allocated to the different operators, and that everybody needs to understand what they are, with, of course, one common goal, again, traceability, transparency, etc., etc. Then there is the introduction of a concept of the quality person, which is definitely new. Not new if you are in drugs or medicine. The concept is already introduced in Europe also under the Medicinal Directive and Cosmetic Directive, and it looks like we're going to have the same for the Medical Device Directive, and we'll talk about it in a second. We already talked about the unannounced audits, which I will address. Definitely more requirements when it comes to the technical documentation. Your technical file today, unless you've already been inspected and pointed out, there will be changes. It needs to have more the format of STED. Quite of elements, most likely, of your technical file are not up to par today, and you will find out through your audits, if it's not tomorrow, it may be down the road, that there are non-compliances. We all have run into the clinical evaluation reports, even though you've been selling maybe successfully for many years, and your technical file has been reviewed for many years, and now suddenly you're being told that your clinical evaluation report is totally not compliant. And you better get it in order, if not, we're going to have problems, or we take your certification away. That sounds more like FDA, doesn't it? So, yeah. But it is happening. And then overall, the post-market surveillance is really getting a lot of attention in this regulation. We already saw that before this regulation was being drafted, that notified bodies were more and more starting to look at PMS within companies and the quality management system and how it is handled. Now it's going to be a major reality that is that will be scrutinized every time they will conduct the audits. So I think this is where we are. It is going to increase cost, absolutely. There is no question about it, and everybody will be impacted. The Class 1 self-certified may not feel it yet, but there will be an increase of surveillance. These Class 1s, despite their low risk, is every now and then target of the month for post-market surveillance, or at the market surveillance by the competent authority. So it's going to impact everybody. The tech files need to be up to par and kept up to date, particularly for those that have notified body intervention will on a consistent and ongoing basis working on compliance, which means that it's time and money, etc., etc. Of course, the different organizations that are being created to make this all happen and improve. Again, there's going to be cost associated to it, UDI, cost associated to you as a manufacturer. The cost of dealing with notified bodies, their fees will definitely increase. They have to hire more competent people. They need to have more in-house capabilities. There will be fewer notified bodies. From the 70 today, I think we're going to see maybe 40 in the next few months, and even more will disappear. So that means also that they can keep charging higher prices potentially. So we'll see what this all evolved. As I said earlier, the last bullet will all impact you. And then I promise I'm done, because I always want to leave on a good note, because it is still a market of 500+ million people. Despite the fact that they all eat different types of food and speak different languages and make fun of each other, it is a very good market to go to and to enter. And I do think in the end, as any company would agree with, despite some of the challenges and the additional costs, it is too good of a market to let go. So I would say let this not stop you to go.